All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Brandon Adams. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday with Messer Financial. Today, we're going to be talking about the final rule, the new 2027 final rules that are coming out. And here with us to do that, we have Miss Rhonda McCall, our VP of Compliance and Agent Development. So, Rhonda, thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely.
All right. Rhonda she has all the information about the 2027 final rules, and she gave me this she asked me the other day if I wanted to read this big giant book of documents that just came out about the final rule, and I thought she was just being mean to me, and because this thing is really thick, and she actually read the entire thing, and she highlighted a bunch of stuff. So I read through her highlights and come up with some questions that I want to ask, so we can kind of get down to what the changes are, because truthfully there are several changes this year that are going to affect agents and how we operate and how we do business. So I'm looking forward to getting your responses and answers, and I think we all are. But I think they're good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they seem agent favorable.
Yes.
Moving forward.
Yes. We're just to clarify, we're just going to talk about Medicare, the final rule for Medicare today, not the ACA.
We're not going to read the entire booklet?
No, we're not going to read the entire booklet.
Good.
It's
Thank
not
you.
a story time.
Thank you.
But again, we're going to focus more on Medicare because the final rule for 2027 for the ACA has also been published.
So we'll get into that later.
We will.
But we'll start in there. So I understand they updated the TPMO disclaimers. So if we'll start with something right there. I think that was one of the first things that they talked about in the rule there. So let's just start there and dive in. They updated the TPO disclaimers, and so I mean, I'm saying this the right way. It no longer has to be said to the client or the beneficiary in the first 60 seconds. Is that correct?
Correct. So if you're doing, say you're doing your sales over the telephonically, whether it's through Skype or whatever, you no longer have to say it within the first 60 seconds.
Okay.
What CMS said is it's kind of confusing to a beneficiary for you to say, hey, I don't offer all products in your area. I only offer like 12 products or whatever. It might confuse the beneficiary. So they said you don't have to say that anymore until you start your actual sales, where you go into the actual selling of the product itself. So if a member would have called you up and just was asking general questions about stuff, you don't have to say, oh, wait just a minute, I have to say the CMS disclaimer before we can talk about anything.
Okay. But you do have to say what products you offer, right?
Correct. So it still includes, I do not offer all products in your area. I offer 15 products with, say, 3 carriers. And you still have to say to reach out to 1-800-MEDICARE. They also took out the requirement to shift over to saying you can reach out to SHIP.
Okay.
So that was removed.
Right. So you don't have to tell them that they got to go to a SHIP person.
No. I'm going to read a little.
State health insurance assistant.
I'm going to read what CMS recognized in the final rule. They said that while SHIP can be a source of unbiased information, informing beneficiaries on every sales call about SHIP may cause additional issues for the beneficiary. SHIP volunteers may not always have the expertise to help beneficiaries to navigate the complex MA and Part D realm. So they see you agents as being expertise in this field, and the fact that you go through all this training and certification, you are truly more apt to be able to help the beneficiary than the SHIP counselor would have been.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, we go through a lot, and plus, I think by removing this, I think it feels like you probably have a more natural flow for the conversation.
Correct.
Instead of having to be so choppy and. Because that part, that's always confusing, I think, for the beneficiary. Is like when I start something and then I got to jump over here and say this, and then I'm back into the conversation. A lot of times, especially with seniors, they can kind of get confused a little bit. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the other one is I've heard that there's the 12. Well, when we talk about the 12-hour gap between educational and marketing seminars. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that for a second, because I think that was a huge part. There's a lot of moving parts within just that subject. It seems like. So let's talk about that. I'm in a marketing or educational event where it is now. If I'm doing the educational event, I have to wait 12 hours before I can go back and sell to those potential clients, Medicare beneficiaries. That's gone away.
Yes. So that falls under the removing the rules on the time and the manner of the contact with the beneficiary. So it's kind of going back to 2021 where you could go straight from a educational event, notify your clients that that event's over, and you'd be starting a sales presentation, give them adequate time to leave the building if they wanted or stay if they wanted. So now we can go straight from our educational event, give the members or the beneficiaries adequate time to leave, and then we can start our sales presentation.
So you have to clearly define
You clearly
the
define.
educational part, and then you have to clearly define the selling or whatever
Correct.
we're
Correct.
calling it, the sales part, the sales presentation. So you're basically saying, okay, this is the end of this, and we're going to start doing this in a minute. So if you want to leave, you have to actually say that.
Correct, correct. And the reason CMS made this change for 2027 is they believe that, and I'll read a little bit more from our final rule, that the 12-hour delay between the two meetings, that requirement, created some issues unnecessarily for the beneficiaries, especially if they had to get a ride to the meeting or something like that. There was a barrier there from them gathering all the information they might need to make an adequate decision on an MA plan or a Part D plan. Plus, from a beneficiary's, that's their perspective. But from an agent's perspective, I mean, now you're not paying for the facility 2 times, and it's a saving on your time also.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like that could save me, especially on back-to-back events, instead of doing one day and then have to rent the place out for the second day or whatever you're doing there. I know we do, sometimes some of our agents do some bigger events.
Correct.
So, and I know you used to do a lot of those events as well.
But CMS is always looking out for the beneficiary.
Right.
Not so
not
much
the
the agent.
Not the agent so much.
Correct.
Gotcha. So I heard another major change with this conversation and this subject. I think it's in that section there. We're talking about eliminating the scope of appointment 48-hour rule.
Yes.
That will be a pretty big one for the agents as well.
Yes. While the 48-hour rule, from an agent's perspective, you should have been using that as a selling tool or preparation for your meeting. You had 48 hours to prepare for that meeting based on the information they were requesting. And Brendan, you and I, when we're out doing our trainings and we're working with our agents, we would always teach that the scope of appointment is your best selling tool.
That's a great marketing
Yes, it's a great marketing tool because inside that beneficiary is telling you exactly what they want to talk about in that meeting, right? So the 48-hour rule, you and I would have never used that as a hindrance. We would have used that as preparation for our meeting, but we have removed that. It will be removed for plan year 2027. So our enrollment starting on October 15th, that rule has gone away from. So what that means is you can collect the scope of appointment at the time of the appointment, but it has to be prior to the appointment itself starting, obviously, because the scope of appointment, the beneficiary is telling you, the agent, exactly what they want to talk about.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important that that's filled out. And Brandon, you can speak a little bit on it on the selling side because that is one of your very best selling tools when you're sitting down with a client in an MA appointment. Because if they check off that they want to talk about a hospital indemnity plan or a drug plan in that meeting, and you or the agent don't discuss that, then you've potentially let a sale walk out the
you're
door.
ensuring that you're not going to sell other stuff during that meeting. I mean, that you're basically saying, I don't want to sell anything else other than this Medicare Advantage plan or whatever you're selling. But, I mean, it's important. And we ask that question all the time. Gosh, I don't know how many times I've said it over the last couple of years. How many of you are getting everybody to check all the boxes on the scope of appointment? And I would say that maybe 10 to 15% of the room will raise their hand. And, and my question is always why? Why wouldn't you use that as a marketing tool to sell other stuff like dental or hospital indemnity or, whatever it is? So,
Correct.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can't sell in that meeting, but, what you can sell is is printed on that form that your Medicare beneficiary is signing saying they want to talk about.
Correct.
So I always kind of assume in that assumptive close style that if you checked it off, we're gonna talk about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Let's just make the assumption, though, that the agent didn't have all the boxes checked and only had Medicare Advantage, and a beneficiary asked about a Part D drug plan.
Right.
At that point, the agent does have to present another scope of appointment, have them check that box, and then sign off on that box. So you can always collect additional scopes of appointment during the appointment, but it's better just to have one completed one prior to starting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and to spin off of that, we're talking about another part of the scope of appointment or the SOA, the ability to collect that at an educational event.
Correct.
You still need the SOA at the event, right?
Well, you don't have to get the scope of appointment at the educational event, but
Why wouldn't I?
well, I don't know, Brandon. Why wouldn't you? You should, 100%, because that's setting you up for being able to contact that client to set that appointment to have them come in and make that sale. So there's no reason you should not collect a scope of appointment. Now, you can't force the clients to sell them,
Right.
to sign them, obviously. But a scope of appointment can serve as a permission to contact. And keep in mind, these are good for 12 months, right? But they're only good for that plan year that they're being used for. So let's say I had scope of appointments signed in November of 2025, right? And we're coming into plan year 2026. 2027. November is going to cross over both those plan years, our selling year for 26 and our selling year for 27. But if I use that scope of appointment for plan year 26 and I talked about benefits for 26, I cannot use that scope of appointment to talk about plan year 27.
Gotcha.
So even though it's good for a year, we have to use it for the plan year in which they signed.
So that makes sense. But when you're looking at that scope, like when I say, and I'm kind of joking, like why wouldn't I get it at the educational event or the event that I'm doing? I just think like it would be one less thing I have to deal with if I got it all there, right?
Correct.
I mean, it just makes more sense to do it that way.
Absolutely.
And again, you're making sure that everybody's checking all the boxes so you can talk about all the things. I mean, because we've gone through this a million times in this last year, this year itself, in webinars and in trainings, and we're talking about with the cost of out-of-pocket costs that it's going up these days, with whether it's Medicare Advantage, whether it's ACA or whatever it is, the out-of-pocket cost is getting higher and higher. They're going to need something to offset those out-of-pocket costs. So talking to them about these ancillary products is more important now than it ever has been. We've gone from, I don't know, 10 years ago, what was the out-of-pocket cost? Maybe $5,000, out of pocket, and now we're looking at over $10,000. As we look at these things. So it's growing and growing, yes, on that side. So we need to make sure we're talking about these things.
Yes.
We just talked about in April, we got out of April Financial Literacy Month, and we did this whole series about, diversifying your book of business and making your clients stickier to you by, offering more products and the retention part of this. So the scope of appointment is not just a good marketing piece. It can help retain business. It can help you diversify. There's a lot that goes on to that in that scope. So that's why I feel like that scope of appointment is an important piece that I get to use with a beneficiary.
Absolutely. Everybody always wants to get a permission to contact. Why not just let your scope of appointment be your permission to contact?
Yeah, right. Okay. Then we get into what I would call relaxed call recordings and retention requirements. So I know you got a different term for it, but this one is getting to where like there's some stuff we need to dig in on this and drill down on this one, because what it's saying, what I initially read was the call recordings that I have to save normally are for 10 years, right? Well, now it's saying 6 years after going into next enrollment. So I only have to save it for 6 years. But that's not really the case. It's a little bit more broken down than that, right?
It is a little bit more broken down. So let's just, first of all, talk about how everyone's interpreting the 6 years of the call recording. So this is when you're doing your calls telephonically, Skype, or video calls or whatever. That recording piece of it has to be maintained for plan year 26, 10 years. For plan year 27, that's going to 6 years.
Okay.
The first 3 years of that, the actual physical recording has to be maintained. From years 4 to 6, that can be transcribed and saved that way. But CMS has there's some verbiage inside the rule that talks about the enrollment application part of it being maintained for 10 years.
Okay.
So there's a little statement in here. I'll read this. It says, to meet the enrollment documentation requirements for enrollments that occur over the phone, plans are still required to record the enrollment portion of the call, as the recording in this instance serves as the enrollment form.
Okay.
So that portion of the call still falls under the 10-year mandate of retention.
Okay. So let me break this down in my brain. Okay. So I'm doing, I'm making a call and I'm talking, let's say I'm talking to a beneficiary, and the first part of that call is me just kind of educational stuff and me just talking about, what's out there and talking about maybe I'm going into A and B and D and trying to explain the different parts of it. The moment that I go into, I'm collecting an application now. You said, hey, yep, that's the plan I want. That very moment, that from then on, that's the part that when I record that has to be for 10 years.
Correct. So we'll just read a little further down in the roll. It says, the enrollment portion of the call begins when the beneficiary is advised that they are completing a enrollment request.
Okay.
So at that point, that call now has to be maintained for 10 years.
Got it. Okay.
So
that is confusing, but because when I look it up, and let me tell you, if you look at ChatGPT, I've said this in the past, but I want to make sure I'd say it again. When you use ChatGPT or any type of AI bot, you want to make sure that you are being specific in what you're looking for. Like if I use it, I'm going to say pull only from CMS, pull only from healthcare.gov. That's the only information I want, because if you don't, then it's going to pull from all different sources, and then it could pull from sources years ago that
Correct.
Those rules don't apply to this day. So it could feed some of that stuff in. So when you're using this, make sure you're using specific CMS or specific to healthcare.gov. But as that reads, when you look at what's going out and what we're hearing about, it doesn't say that. It just says, hey, everything's going to 6 years, which is not the case. It's everything is going to 6 years if you're just in the educational part.
Correct.
In the opening statements.
The sales presentation part, but the physical enrollment part still must be maintained based on my interpretation of the final rule.
Okay, but it's not like I'm going in to go to Connect or whatever platform I'm using for my call recording. It's not like I'm going in there, it's been 10 years, I got to take all these out. I'm not doing that. I mean, because I know with the MyFG platform and what Messer does, we keep it in there forever.
Correct.
Right?
So that's
infinity.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's a great reason to use the MyFG platform and that storage, because we store it for you. We can pull the calls, and there's no set limit on how long those calls can be stored. We could store them right now as long as we want to.
Yeah. Okay.
So great reason to use the MyFG platform.
So this gives us just a few bullet points. I think these are the ones that are really going to affect the agents the most.
Yes.
I think that covers a little bit of the topics of what we're wanting to push out, and we want to make sure that you understand that when you're looking at these and reading these rules, make sure you got the right information. A lot of times, like I said, with the disclaimers, it might be saying something different. With with how long you got to keep your call recordings, it might look like it's 6 years, but it's really 10 years on that side. So there's a lot of changes in the market, and people are just interpreting some of those things and then putting this information out. So again, get all your information from CMS. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you got to read this entire book that Rhonda has read, but But she, we have gone through and highlighted some of those parts, and just making sure we're getting the right information.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me about SSBCI. What's going on what's new with SSBCI? I know this is a little bit off topic, so it's not about the final rule proposals, but
there is
I know
we
wanted to touch on this.
There is some language in here regarding the SSBCI, and that's our special supplemental benefits for the chronically ill. Mm-hmm. So for 2026, there's been a little bit of shift in the way those benefits were delivered to the beneficiary, correct? Mm-hmm. Prior to, we had the value-based insurance design where they could use those little cards for anything because the government was funding that money, and that actually sunset for plan year 2026, and this year we rolled out the SSBCI piece. It's been a little bit confusing for our agents understanding how to qualify for those benefits. Just because there was a $100 say, $100 card available did not mean that those members would automatically get that card. So in the final rule for 2027, there is some verbiage in here that the plans actually have to put on their public website how to qualify for those benefits. And even though you might have what you might seem to think is a illness that would, a chronic illness that would do that, you don't always qualify. So those are benefits that you have to qualify for, and they're going to be publicly displayed in 27 to make sure that the beneficiaries are actually eligible for it. We saw on the compliance side a lot of complaints and issues from members not understanding. They thought they were getting their card and they were not getting a card because they didn't qualify. So from an agent's perspective, you have to be very educated about the plans that you're offering your members and how to help those members qualify for those benefits. Again, for 2027, they have to be publicly displayed. There's a little bit of change to the actual card itself, the debit cards, and how those are going to be in the plans. Again, that's something we'll get into on a later date. We just hit a high level today on that. But from an agent's perspective, that's a part that you have to be very educated on and understand the plan and understand, so you're clearly explaining that to your client, that this is the only way you can get this benefit is you have to qualify for it. Not everybody gets them. So just because you're selling a plan that might have a $100 card attached to it, if they don't have that chronic illness that particular plan says that you have to have, they won't get that benefit. So just wanted to touch on that briefly. Again, there is verbiage inside of this regarding that, but we've seen a lot of issues with that this year so far, as we've just a few months in 26.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about, coming up in July, I think we're going to have a series of webinars that are going to try to focus on getting everybody ready for OEP, and I know that's definitely going to be a conversation piece that we need to have. And not just from us. This is what the carriers are pushing us to make sure we educate people on as well. So
and misaligned plans.
Yeah, the misaligned plans. Yes. That was a big deal last year.
So but there's a whole lot in here. We'll just hit the high level today.
Okay. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else, that's pretty much. We wanted to touch on some of the the hot topics, the topics that are going to affect agents in the field moving forward this next year and this next enrollment. All of this right here, by the way, goes into effect October 1st.
Yeah, so October 1st for plan year 2027.
Correct. Yeah.
So any plans you write between that time, it's got a 26 effective date.
So let's make sure we understand this. You cannot go and use these rules right now. You have to wait until open enrollment starts, which is August 1st.
No, October 15th.
October 1st. Excuse me. October 1st.
15th.
Yeah, October. You can start using this. You do not start trying to implement these right now because it's not into effect.
Correct.
So, okay. Well, thank you for being here with us today.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you, and we'll continue to push this information out. And just to let everybody know, in the chat box we have some links in there to our social media. Please follow us on social media. We always try to push information out in lots of different ways. So social media is a big one for us to do that. And also you can follow us on YouTube. We got a lot of YouTube videos out there. A lot of great information, the stuff that we talk about in here, stuff that marketing talks about and communications puts out. And all of these webinars are going to be recorded and they'll put in your agent portal. So you can access this webinar in your agent portal if you need to go back and look at some of the stuff we've talked about. Other than that, if you have any questions, please reach out to your marketer. The marketer's information is going to be in that chat box as well. They're ready to answer any of your phone calls. You can reach out to me or Rhonda. You can just call here and ask for any of us. We'll be happy to help you. But again, thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being on the webinar today. And this concludes our webinar. Hope you have a great week.